Figuring out your future can feel overwhelming when you're just starting out, but the United States Air Force can give you the support you need. With over 200 different career fields, there's a place for you to serve. Whether you want to provide health care to your fellow airmen, work to maintain valuable aircraft, or secure every base or something in between, the Air Force will give you all the top training and education you need to excel. You'll also have the chance to travel all over the world while serving your country. A decision to join the Air Force will be one that you will never forget or regret. Contact Staff Sergeant Benish at 505-239-3845 to find out more information.
Opioids can change your life like they did mine. My addiction started after my surgery. Soon, I couldn't live without them. I wasn't getting high anymore. I just wanted the physical withdrawals to stop. At that point, my safety, health, career, none of it mattered. But I found a solution. Visit anotherwaynm.com to find alternative ways to treat pain. That's anotherwaynm.com. Don't let my story become your story. Paid for by the New Mexico Department of Health.
You're listening to JW Raw.
We're live.
Welcome to the show, Leo. How do you say it? Grachev?
Grachev.
Grachev.
Oh, I like it.
Russian names. So, where are you from?
Одинцово. It's about 2 hours.
Say it slower.
Одинцово.
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 Odintsova.
There you go. It's real close to Moscow, so
Okay.
usually I just
We'll just say Moscow.
Yeah, makes it
for
simple.
the people listening. Like, what is that? What's he saying? Moscow. Everyone knows Moscow, the capital.
That's it.
So that's where you're born and raised. And when did you come to America?
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you the whole story.
You're still a Russian citizen, or are you U.S.
I
citizen?
got dual citizenship.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning.
That's it. Yeah. So I moved to the United States when I was 8 years old. I moved with my family, my mom and my dad. In the early 90s, early post-Soviet days, a lot of the infrastructure fell apart. My dad, he has a postdoctorate in physics. He's a physicist,
Wow.
a scientist, but unfortunately, he wasn't making a lot of money. Somebody who was a director would just up and leave, say, hey, I don't have to be here anymore. I never wanted the job. Boom, he's gone. So, and, back then he would be making maybe the equivalent of $200 a month if they paid him. But my father was good enough to where he would go overseas and out of the country to work for grant money. So, for example, he'd go to Germany and they would pay him, $1,000 a month, which would be great money for us. And, it wouldn't be that much money for them either. And, he'd come over there. So that was something he did. And one day, he came to America to work, and they ended up offering him a full-time position. So in 1998, we came to Arizona. We flew on Halloween. I've never heard of Halloween in my life. And back in 98, the TSA restrictions weren't quite severe. So all the pilots and stewardesses were dressed up. And I had no idea what the hell was going on. I remember
Everyone's dressed up as Dracula and fairies and unicorns and whatever.
I asked my mom, I said, what are they doing? She said, oh, Americans just like to have fun. She didn't know what Halloween was.
She didn't understand it either. She just went with it.
She was like, so I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's cool.
I'm gonna like this place.
Yeah, it was my first time on a plane, and we went to Tempe, Arizona. We were there for about 6 months, and the company that hired on my dad, they actually closed down. But the person that brought him over, he went to Boulder, Colorado. His name was Chris, and he actually took my father with him, which was a great thing of him to do. We still thank him for this to this day. And so I ended up in Colorado in 1999. I did all my schooling out there, elementary, middle, high school, finished elementary. So I came here for third grade. I skipped a grade. I was in first grade in Russia, came here, went to third grade. Finished school here, went on a football scholarship to play at a Division II school, the Colorado School of Mines. Got my engineering degree there. I only played for a year. It wasn't what I thought it'd be. I had these grand aspirations. It was a great time, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. So that's when I started fighting. Me and two of my friends, Dimitri and this crazy country boy named Tyler, we bought 2 pairs of MMA gloves and we just beat the shit out of each other. And we go on YouTube and we're like, man, I know this crazy move.
Look what I learned.
Yeah, this is something I've been doing my whole life. And
That's America right there. You get country boy, a Russian, and who else?
2 Russians.
2 Russians. There you go.
Right. So we'd be teaching each other something we saw once on YouTube. And then the summer after my freshman year, I went to my first MMA gym. So I actually started with MMA, mixed martial arts. I did it for about a year, and then I got really into kickboxing. I had maybe about 10 kickboxing fights. When I was 20, I had a bad back injury. Figured I was done. Finished my degree. Got my degree in petroleum engineering, and went to go work. And a year later, I hurt my back again at work. But now, since it was a work injury, they took care of me.
Workman's comp.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Insurance.
and I had insurance at the time, so it was great for me.
So petroleum. We'll stop right there for a sec. Petroleum engineering. What is it? Sounds pretty exciting, but what is it?
It is fun. It was fun. My freshman year, they gave you a list of all your majors and short description and the median salary. And the median salary for a petroleum engineer was first year was something like 85,000. I'm like, I'll do that.
I can afford that.
Right. So it's a mix of everything. A little bit of chemical engineering, mechanical,
Wow.
petrophysics, geology,
Man,
things like that.
You're a smart dude.
I try.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my sister's a chemical engineer, and I know what she went through to get that degree, and she's been doing it now a little over 20 years, and yeah, it's a very lucrative job. Not in this part of the country, but on the East Coast, they hire a lot of that stuff, and you have to be pretty smart. Your English is impeccable.
Well, thank
I
you,
mean,
my
that Misha, obviously our GM, grew up in Russia, and his accent is still very, very thick Russian
Right.
accent. Whereas yours, you wouldn't know better if someone was just talking to you.
Right.
I don't know what that way was. It the Colorado
Well,
did that to you, or
Well, I actually heard a fun little fact. Somebody told me once, if you learn a new language before, I think for men it's maybe early teens, before your vocal cords finish developing, you can learn it without an accent. But once they develop, then you're always going to have a little bit of your natural sound.
that's fascinating.
So yeah.
So the dialect is
Right,
is
yeah, and-
affected by your vocal cords as you're growing up.
Yeah, and my mother and father, they've been here just as long as I have, but they still have an accent. But
Yeah, they're older. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
so.
That's a fascinating story. That's neat. So petroleum engineering. You were doing that for a while. Then what?
Yeah, so I worked
Doing
for about
MMA.
I worked for about 2 years for a company called Schlumberger. And in petroleum engineering, you get to either go in the office or go in the field. And I was always the type of person, I wanted to have some fun. I said, you know what, I'm going to go in the field. I hear you make better money out there anyways. So I was in Texas for about 2 months doing my training. Then I went to Oklahoma to do more training. I was there for about 4 months.
Because that's where the oil's at, Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I was actually supposed to go up to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, which is the very north coast of Alaska. And about a week before I was scheduled to go there, they pulled me into the director's office. I was still in Oklahoma, and I'm thinking, man, I got caught cheating or something. We had a lot of exams, a lot of practicals. I'm freaking out. I'm gonna, play up the accent, walk in there, and be like, "Hello, what this problem?" So the director pulls me in. He says, "Hey, we can't send you to Prudhoe Bay anymore. We lost the BP contract up there, so they have all the engineers they need. You can either go to Williston, North Dakota, Midland, Texas, or Roswell, New Mexico." And I didn't want to go to Williston. Midland seemed a little boring, so I was like, you know what, I'll try Roswell.
Wow.
So I ended up in Roswell, New Mexico. I was out there from December, maybe January 2000. Yeah, January 2013 it would be. So I was working out there, and after I hurt my back for the second time, and they fixed it up. I just got back in the gym. I've been playing sports at a high level since I was 2 feet tall, since I could run. So it wasn't anything new to me, and it was a big part of my life. So I was happy to be able to get back in the gym and move around. So I just started punching the bag a little bit, and I saw these two Mexican kids working the bag. Pow, 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 pow. I'm like, oh, is there a boxing gym in town? I asked them and said, yeah, it's this place called The Dungeon. This dude named Lupe runs it. Just go down there, check it out. It's free. I'm like, sweet. So, I went in there, and that's how I met my first boxing coach, with whom I started competing. His name is Lupe Perez. He's down in Roswell, New Mexico. And, true to the word, the place was like a dungeon. There was holes in the wall. The ceiling leaked. It was, like something out of a movie.
Yeah, like a movie, exactly.
Yeah, great times. I have
old rusty weights and.
Yeah, we had one wood burning oven in there. So during the winter, guys would come. They'd wear jackets. They wear hats. They'd wrap their hands up to their fingers. We'd shadow box around the oven to get warm and go do a round, and the bags would get cold again and go back to the oven. And in the summer you had to work out in your underwear because you just be sweating. So it was a good time. I started my boxing career out there in Roswell, New Mexico.
Ah, that's I never knew that. So how'd you end up in Albuquerque? You're here at Jackson Wink.
Right. So I quit my job in I believe May of 2014. I spent about 2 years working for Schlumberger. And at the time, I was dating a girl named Nikki, who actually trained at Jackson Wink back in the day. Back when we were
I remember Nikki.
Yeah, back at the old location. Yeah. And I met her because my coach Lupe at the time, said, hey, that we can't really get you any good sparring down here. Let's go down to Albuquerque. They have a few pros here. So, we drive from Roswell to Albuquerque. We'd stay here for a few days, get some sparring. And I was sparring with a guy who's now my friend, Jose. And, we posted some pictures online, and, she saw them. She mistook me. She's like, oh, I thought you look kind of like my ex-boyfriend. And, so we got to talking, and, I came to find out she trains at Jackson Wink, and there was a guy that used to train here named Jonathan Ham, who was a national boxing champion.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you think they'll let me come down?
Now he's a producer, rap producer.
Yeah, he's in Vegas now.
Yeah.
He's got a fun Snapchat. He's got a good Instagram.
He's a trip.
So I was like, hey, can I come down here and spar with him? At that point I was like, I want the best sparring I can get. And it sounds like it's this guy. So I came down here, and they kind of saw me moving around a little bit. It's like, yeah, go in there and work with him. I worked with him, and then they told me, hey, do you want to jump in and do a few rounds with John? And I was, John, yeah, let's do it. I told him, I only box. I don't. He said, yeah, we can box. And this was, I think, the first time he was supposed to fight DC. This is one of my favorite MMA stories. So we get in there, we start moving. I'm a little starstruck. This is like the first.
Yeah, you see John Jones on the other end of the cage, and you're like, hey, wait a minute.
So, it was awesome. We working second round. I don't remember what he did. He was boom, 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 something awkward. He closed the distance. Boom, we hit our heads. And he said, I think I'm bleeding.
Yep.
I think I'm cut. And, he's got a,
it was a nasty cut. Yeah, I remember that well.
And he's got
stitches,
and I'm looking at it, and he's got a really dark complexion. He was sweating, so I couldn't see. And all of a sudden, she's blood pouring down his fist. I'm like, oh shit! Yeah. I'm thinking they're about to kick my ass. This guy's gonna fight for millions of dollars, and I just cut him. A month from the fight. I actually have that picture. I'll show you.
But fortunately, it was your own blood, so you didn't.
It was him. I cut him. We bumped heads, and he got a.
I remember you getting cut also.
Yeah, let me pull out this picture. It was a
show it to. I don't know if we can. I'll hold it up to this camera. Let's
see. It was a long time ago. It's one of my first pictures. Here we go. Yeah, actually,
I think I can just hold it up to this one. Actually,
see, we bumped heads. Oh, hang on. Scroll.
Right there. Oh, there with a bandage on his face.
Yeah, there's John Jones. We bum heads, he's cutting, and I'm thinking they're never gonna let me back here. So I was like, hey, John, do you think we can get a picture before, before I go? He was really cool about it. So we got the picture, and that was that.
So that was the first time around. You helped him out with the DC fight, but then they said, hey, you'd be a good Gustafson.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was 2014, 2015. I moved back to Colorado after that, spent a while traveling, competing a lot. And then in 2018, I moved out to San Diego, California.
Yeah, you know what? I took him to the doctor because he needed stitches.
Yeah.
We took him to a doctor out in Rio Rancho, It was Holly's plastic surgeon. He says he's got get him in there right now. Yeah, so that was you. I don't even remember that. That is funny.
We bumped heads. He got a big cut.
That's right. That was okay.
Yeah. So I moved to San Diego, and 2018, December 2018, U.S. Nationals. I was seeded as the number 2 guy in the country coming into that tournament, and I just had one of my worst performances, and I was feeling terrible. And Brandon Gibson actually called me a few days before that, and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming down and being John Jones' sparring partner? He's fighting Gustafson again." And I said, "Yeah, sure. As soon as I'm done with my tournament." And I lost out really early, and I kind of told him, "I'll be over at the end of the week," And I lost out on, I think, on Monday or Tuesday, something. So I called him and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in tomorrow."
Sooner than I said.
Yeah, I was fighting in Salt Lake City, and I drove there from Colorado. So I said, packing my car, going to Albuquerque, and I came out here. And I started training with John. Me and him clicked. I clicked with a lot of the coaches, and everybody was really receptive to me, and it was a great environment for me here. And John actually mentioned, "Hey, what do you think about moving out here? We could work together and make each other better." And because I told him I was having a really tough time in California. I've been doing personal training for about 4 years at that point, and San Diego's so saturated with personal trainers and
the
clients.
cost of living out there is out of control,
Yeah,
man.
Well, no, the saturation of everybody I talk from San Diego's like, what do you do?
Everyone's a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So I couldn't build up a clientele
Or hot yoga.
I ended up delivering food, and I was like,
Uber Eats.
I was actually doing DoorDash and
One of those deals.
Postmates. Yeah,
Postmates.
Same
I
thing.
never even heard of that one.
Yeah. So I was mentally it was wearing on me because in my mind I'm like, I'm an engineer.
And here I am.
I used to be
delivering
making
food.
6 figures a month or a year. A month, I wish.
Yeah.
6 figures.
You wouldn't
a
have quit
year.
that job.
Yeah, and I was I've been training people, and here I am delivering food, and then I came off the terrible performance, and so I said, what, I'm gonna come out here, see what it's like. So.
And you've been here for about a year now. Is that this time?
Not quite. I moved out here in February, I believe.
Okay.
And then I just had a bunch of tournaments, so I didn't actually come back till about early mid-May. So I moved out here, lots of training, lots of traveling.
And right now you're the Golden Gloves champ for
Colorado.
Yes, for
for this year.
Well, there's only 51, right? Because Puerto Rico is considered part of this.
Yeah. So the thing about the Golden Gloves tournament is, one of my friends, he told me back in the day when I was first starting out, said, I want to get on the Olympic team. What's it like? What does Golden Gloves? What is that? And he told me, it's probably the most prestigious tournament because so it's not necessarily always a state you're representing. Sometimes it's a region. Like our region is Colorado, New Mexico. So you got to
just those two states.
Yep.
Huh.
The champion of Colorado is going to fight the champion New Mexico. The winner gets to go to nationals. Some bigger states, for example, New York, they have 2 regions. They have New York Metro and like Buffalo, for example. So Texas, its own region. Then there's smaller like Rocky Mountain, which I think is Utah, Arizona, and someone else, for example. Some states don't have a Golden Glove. So, but the point is, once you make it to nationals, it's all champions. Some tournaments, you just apply online, you show up, and you might get good opponents, you might get trash.
Yeah.
Golden Gloves, it's the cream of the crop. Everybody had to win to get there. So I won my first state title in 2014 in New Mexico. Then I won, I believe, 2016, 2017, and now 2019, all in Colorado. So that was it was a great time. It was awesome.
and that's straight up boxing. No, that's
Straight
not
up.
MMA. So
Correct. And the reason I wanted to stick to straight boxing, I was scared I was going to hurt my back again. What I did was I tore my left hamstring, and when I did that, it shifted a lot of the muscles in my spine, and some of my one of my discs started to slip.
Ouch.
So
Jesus.
yeah, very painful.
So is that something you're constantly gonna have to deal with, or what?
Right now it's stable enough where I can train all day, and I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it was, but there were literally times, close to my injury, I couldn't even bend down and touch my knees. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, there's stem cell that's coming along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of.
Have you looked into that stuff at all?
I can't afford it, Mark. I got, what do I got? I got icy hot.
It's not like insurance is covering that.
No, I was looking at stem cell, and it depended on how much they needed to put in your body, but it was close to $5,000 to $6,000 per
Holy
per
crap.
shot.
Right.
Yeah, that's not not pocket change.
That's funny you brought that up. I was actually just talking to my strength conditioning coach from San Diego, Juan Herrera, and he had an injury he was trying to get taken care of, and we were discussing, possibility of stem cells, and he was telling me that the medical progress on stem cells in the U.S. is so stunted compared to the rest of the world. I don't know if it's political roadblocks or ethical, medical,
FDA.
Yeah, you would know better than me. I'm just passing the information along. But yeah, he said he looked into it, and same thing. He said it was about $10,000 to get his shoulder done.
Just for one treatment.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, they do one. They put you on a plan, so they'll treat it with one shot, and then like in a couple weeks or months, depending on how it's responding, they'll bring you back in for additional shots. So there have been a lot of studies that shown it's really doing its job, but like Leo was saying, it's kind of stunted in here. So
Yeah, it's not pocket change.
well, stunted in terms of research and being funded, like in India and Mexico and other type of places, and like the Swiss, it's pretty solid. Like you can fly out there and it's like $2,000 or $1,000.
Just don't do it in Mexico.
Or the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could just be a random Dominican Republic. What the hell's going on down there, man? It's getting crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Leo, I got a question for you.
Yes.
You are the man that's kind of the boxing expert down there. How would you think John would do in a 12-rounder?
If you put him in right now, it's a whole different game. Boxing versus MMA. You can't quite cut as much weight, I don't feel like, because it's a 12-round fight.
Yeah.
You even see bad cuts in 3-round fights.
So he'd have to fight at 225.
Let me rephrase that so it sounds better. If let's take he did a perfect camp, everything is put to a T, training everything, and he goes in as John does. How do you think he would do? Fully prepared, fully cut, there's no problems, has weight on point, everything.
John is a very special athlete. I believe he would, if he truly dedicated himself to the sport of boxing, he'd do well.
Yeah.
But we're talking about guys that have been boxing since they're 6 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. I started fighting. Obviously I started training boxing when I was 18. Along with everything else. But even then, that's a late start.
Yeah.
There's.
Well, it's kind of like wrestling. I mean, if you start wrestling at 20 years old, you're already
Right.
8 years behind the curve.
Absolutely.
It's you gotta start this stuff early, and it has to be your first sport, I guess.
Right. So I guess my short answer to that is he would do pretty well, but I don't know if I would quite expect a world title from him.
Well, Conor McGregor, the whole Conor McGregor thing kind of explained that whole situation a little bit. This guy, an MMA guy, went into the boxing world, and it is what it is. I don't know. What was your assessment of that? I mean,
I actually really enjoyed that fight. It kind of went the way I figured it would. But it's, like we said, a whole different game. He landed an uppercut flush and full, and it did nothing to him. And when you're wearing the 4-ounce MMA gloves, it's one thing. Some little bullshit can rock you a little bit. In boxing, you can. This is going to sound a little counterintuitive, but with the bigger gloves, you can almost throw harder. You're not afraid of breaking your knuckles. You're not afraid of hurting your wrist. I remember, sometimes be hitting the bag with MMA gloves back in the day, and I'm like, oh man, my knuckles kind of hurt. With boxing gloves, you don't have that. You just punch as hard as you can. So, and that's one big difference. Like we said, 12 rounds. It's 12 3-minute rounds. You got to understand what you're doing. You got to understand the way your body functions at those levels. As opposed to 3 5-minute rounds, 5 5-minute rounds. Obviously you don't have wrestling, so you can
No takedowns.
no
No
takedowns,
kicks.
right? And that almost saves you a little bit in terms of cardio. But at the same time, if the other guy decides to push the pace, and that's he's good at it, i.e. Andy Ruiz just getting right up, and Anthony Joshua, he wasn't. Maybe he was ready, but he wasn't expecting that kind of firepower, that kind of
was
pressure.
what, 3-week notice or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
That's an impressive.
And actually, when I was down in San Diego, I got to spar with Andy Ruiz.
Nice.
We just did 4 rounds, but his pressure is incredible, and we sparred in 18-ounce gloves. But I remember I put one good right hand on him, boom. He took it and he keeps coming forward, and that's the big difference between some guys. And, you even saw, Anthony Joshua knocked him down.
Yeah,
He stood right in the pocket. He
Yeah,
gave
everyone
it
counted
right
him
back.
out at that point. They're like,
Yeah, they're like,
forget
"Oh,
it."
fight's over." He's boom. He came right
like
back.
a zombie. He jumped up. And,
And that's that partly that's that Mexican style, and the other part, he's a tough dude.
Yeah.
So, it's Joshua started to get a little bit tired out. Andy was walking him down. That's a lot of movement you have to do to stay away from a guy like that. So, different game.
So you were at our new sponsor's establishment, the Black Snout Brewery, and on Saturday night we watched the bare knuckle, the much talked about, anticipated bare knuckle fight with
Right.
Paulie and Artem. What was your take on that? Obviously, I think we did a little promo and I got you on video and you were talking about that the goat. You were in the goat's corner no
absolutely.
matter what.
I was, and for me, I didn't appreciate Paulie's antics. Spitting in the face, slapping him before the fight. I think that's not sportsmanship.
Yeah,
to me.
I mean, being a boxing guy, Paulie being the boxing guy, your loyalty. I was kind of wondering about that, but obviously Artem is a different guy. He's he's kind of Russian.
Yeah, he's
I don't know if he's Irish or Russian, but depends on who's in the room.
Right, he's from my neck of the woods, I guess.
Yeah.
But if it came down to it and they put a boxer against an MMA guy with nothing on him, I'd root for the boxer. But I didn't. Like I said, I didn't like any of Paulie's antics leading up to it, and Artem has been.
I think you called him a douche.
Yeah,
He was being a douche.
Yeah, I mean, how do you spit in a guy's face?
that
Come
was
on,
messed
man.
up, yeah.
So, but Artem was, he was humble about it, and acted like an athlete should act.
How do you think it went? I mean, what do you think of that pace? I mean,